Hi again. In this video we are going to talk about regular graphite pencils, the basic artist tool we have, and I will show you which pencils I use and how to sharpen them. This is not about right or wrong, but different ways to sharpen pencils, and you will decide actually which way is more comfortable for you personally. Also, I will show you some tips for creating lines, more professional look architecture drawing with lines, and how to draw circles and ellipses. First of all, I'm showing you here pencils I use. I do use mechanical pencils sometimes for marking light sketch lines prior to painting the color. But if I have intention to make mixed media sketch and to work with pencils more than just mark some lines, I prefer to use traditional wooden pencils. I personally love blackwing pencils for their aesthetic, feeling in a hand, and for soft graphite lead. They don't mark the softness with common HB scale, but almost all their pencils tend to be soft, kind of 2,4B, and graphite they use for pencils production is really one of the best in my opinion. Pencil just moves so nice on paper, it's hard to describe it in words, you have to feel it. In short, if you try blackwing pencils, I'm sure you will not be able to use other pencils after that. Now for sharpening them. I love to use electrical sharpeners by Afmat brand, easy to find on Amazon, because they have some models that have the option to control the length of the point and angle of sharpened wood is not so sharp angle as in regular sharpeners. Why this so important? Because this allows us to use the pencil in different way and actually almost to lay down the pencil parallel the paper. And in few minutes I will show how that becomes crucial for line drawing. Here I'm showing you two different types of Afmat electrical sharpeners I have. Blue one could be charged from USB cable and black one works with regular electrical cable. They have different angle of sharpening, but both have some control on lead point length. Black one doesn't give the sharp point of lead, but it gives a bit more long lead. So I just use sandpaper to sharpen the lead to the good point I need. With those electrical sharpeners, we get the sharpening of pencil with approximately 1 to 2 parts, I mean 1 part of lead and 2 parts of wood, and graphite lead is maximum some kind of 5-7 millimeters. But some artists who work more in classical drawing love to sharpen the pencil with a knife in order to get longer graphite lead, like I'm showing you here now. When the sharpened part of graphite could be 2 or 3 centimeters, about 1 inch and even more. In this case, sharpened wood have to be at least the same length, and the best is to make it at least 1 to 1.5. It means wooden angled part should be more than a lead. It would help to avoid the breaking of the lead, but it's still breakable and we should remember about while working. This is also the advantage for us, we will avoid giving too much pressure on it. And I'm ending the sharpening with sandpaper to get really sharp long point of graphite lead. This how this kind of sharpening look like. My husband calls these pencils of psycho, and regular sharpened pencils like he calls them pencils of normal persons. So just I leave with this information for now. So all these sharpening options allow to lay the pencil in parallel to the paper or close to, and to cover large spaces with shading, for example, or to change the angle with a light hand movement and to get clean lines at the same time, it allows to change the pressure we give on pencil and to get a light or darker lines. Now I want to show you two different types of holding the pencil we use in drawing, again in order to get more control on our lines. First one, when we hold pencil with all fingers, pencil like laying on all four fingers and the thumb just presses a bit on top. The pressure of thumb will control the line value, and in this kind of holding we usually will leave about 7-8 centimeters, 3-4 inches of pencil about the thumb. We don't hold this way close to the tip of the pencil. Second holding type is almost the usual one we all know, when we use three fingers, middle one, pointing one, and the thumb, to hold the pencil, but there is a light difference in artist's holding. Again, as in a previous holding, we don't hold it too much closer to the tip, not this way. We like putting the pencil on middle finger, press it with the thumb. Other side of the pencil is lying on place between thumb and pointing finger, and pointing finger could be raised up. It doesn't affect on holding. We can draw without it. Pointing finger do have a role here, and it used to make more pressure on pencil when we need to make some more precise and hard pencil mark, but in general it doesn't involve in drawing. With these types of pencils holding, when we make straight lines, we will place the tip of the pencil in 90 degrees to the line direction we want to draw, while pencil is laying in parallel to the paper as close as our sharpening allows. If we draw a horizontal line, pencil is looking up. It means actually 90 degrees to the horizontal line. And if we make vertical line, pencil will look to the side. It depends if you right or left-handed, but the idea is the same, in parallel to the horizontal line of the paper. That is actually what 90 degrees means. And when we make diagonal lines, works the same. Now I want to show and explain some tips to draw straight lines, and we need it a lot in architecture, so it will be really useful. First of all, we hold the pencil with first or second types of holding I have shown now. Here I am holding the second type. Pencil is 90 degrees to the line direction, as I have said before. I make here 2 points, 2 dots, one of starting the line and second where line should end. I draw them here, but the intention that you make these points in mind, not on paper. I start with first point, but I'm not looking at the line I draw while drawing. I'm looking at the final point I have to get to with my pencil. Again, this is the main idea here. You don't look at the line you draw, you look with your eyes to the point where line should end. Your hand knows how to do that, but your mind usually will want to control the hand. Release the control, focus on ending point, and allow to your hand to do the job. Don't give up if you don't succeed at the first times. It's really hard to release the control, but at the moment you will do that, you will see how much precise your hand could draw. Your hand is just a perfect tool. Also, we don't move the wrist. Wrist is in the same position we start the movement until the end of the movement. Movement of hand is going from the shoulder. That's why it's better to start with practicing that in standing position. If you sit, this will limit you, but if you don't have option to stand, Try to keep in mind what your movement is from shoulder and make some space for your body. Remove any objects around you that could limit these movements of your body. With other directions of diagonal lines, 90 degrees to the line direction, and I'm holding here pencil in a first type of holding it, so this works the same, and the tip of the pencil is parallel to the paper. Next about lines drawing is about meeting points of lines, especially used for architecture when we make a drawing of any architectural subject. And the main idea here is what your line is never should end on the actual ending point. What does it mean? This means what we start draw line a bit before the starting point of the line and end it a bit after. This also will help to make our lines more clean and straight. We start with a movement of hand before starting point of line, then pencil is start touching the paper a bit before the starting point of line, and then we arrive to the end. We raise a pencil a bit after the ending point, and very important, we continue the movement without touching the paper much after. Actually, our movement of hand with pencil ends much after we made this line. At the result, we will get lines that overlapping one and another a bit in a meeting points of lines, and that alone will give us more professional look of our drawing. Most of people do not end lines this way, and in a result they get a small gap between lines in meeting points that looks as not perfect and precise drawing to our minds, even if we can't explain why. This is how our mind is working. Here I'm trying to show you how this gap is looking, but it's so hard for me to draw not ending the lines, so I don't think it was a successful example. But I want to show you here again from start how we use this holding type I showed, and now it's the first type of holding I showed, of pencil I mean, and how we actually make these straight and clean lines with the idea what we don't look at the line, we look at the ending point, and idea what we start the line before it actually has to start and end it after. And this way we get more professional look of the drawing. Also, I will make more pressure on the pencil on the meeting points, on the line close to the meeting points. And if we talk now about architecture, structure and drawing, I will always tend to draw more hard and pressed lines, the lines what close to the viewer more. So line or plane or side of the building what closer to the viewer will always darker, and I will use more pressure on my pencil. And again, I'm showing you what the movement is from the shoulder, I remind you about, and also I remind you here about the angle we use of the pencil, what actually lay down and almost parallel to the paper. This is important point again. So please practice this. Practice two types of holding pencil. Try to hold it in different way. Realize what you love more, what is the way you're comfortable with more, and also practice on making straight lines to different directions. keeping in mind all my instructions about the starting points, the keeping in mind of the ending point and the meeting points of lines. Now, after we practiced a bit with lines, let's go with circles and ellipses. In architecture, we will need more ellipses than circles, but it's the same idea, so I will show you both, and we will start with circles. So, as I did with the lines, first of all, our pencil in 90 degrees to the horizontal line, and the main idea, exactly as in line, is to look at the next point. We need to get into this point with the pencil. But in line it was point, in circle we have 4. I draw here the center of circle and 4 points around in the same distance from center point. These are my path marks. I will start from one point. Doesn't so matter which one exactly, and looking at the next one, and then the next one, and so on to the end. Usually in circle we can make several light pencil circle lines, every time making it more precise, and of course we don't draw all these center and other points. With some practice we will see them in mind. Here this will be a bit more difficult to release the control of the mind, I mean, because circle is so scary, but with some practice you will succeed, I'm sure about. Put on some your favorite music and try to relax. Don't expect from yourself circles, just try to release the control of the mind on your hand. We need to get into state when our hand is just natural continue of the mind, and all the body is helping us with that. So music could really help, especially if you love moving and dancing. In ellipses we have exactly the same idea, just our points of distance from center will be different and will depend on ellipse opening. And because we are in architecture drawing today and have a perspective usually, the distance from top and distance from bottom will be a bit different usually. Depends on perspective in specific location and point of view. Very important is to hold the pencil in one position while drawing, and it is 90 degrees again to the main axis of the ellipse. In this example I'm showing, it's 90 degrees to the horizontal line of the paper. By the way, when you use this technique of drawing ellipses, you will never do ellipse wrong with sharp edges on sides. Well, this is the most common mistake in making ellipses, but in this technique it is just impossible to do. You will always get good rounded corners, depends on ellipse opening size. That's it for this video, I think, and I hope all these tips will help you to practice a bit doing lines and circles and ellipses, and to release a bit control of your mind on your hand. So please practice it on circles and ellipses and not just on lines, because we will need it for different architecture elements in next lessons. And I hope to see your results in our group. If you will share your experience with this exercise, it would be really great to hear from you what was difficult and what was not so difficult. I will really happy to hear from you about this. So see you in the next lessons. Hi again. In this video I will tell you a bit about the course and how it's structured.
First of all, I believe that art is not just about technical skills. It's a very special way of seeing the world. To me, being an artist begins with the moment we notice something around us, something that suddenly becomes more than just an object. It could be a tree, it could be a building, or anything else. But in that specific moment, it transforms into something meaningful. At that moment, we see the order of things, their nature and presence. Whether you believe in God or in something powerful and yet unnamed by science or simply in nature, it doesn't matter. What matters is what in this moment you feel something much greater than the physical world. You feel connected to God, to universe, to nature, or whatever you believe in. You feel the spirit of things and you want to share it with others. That's how I see it. Artists are like bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds. When we show others the way we see something, we connect them with their own feelings and spirit. One of the most beautiful things that can happen to an artist is that a viewer recognizes something deeply personal in our work. In that moment, art stops being created only by artists. It continues to live and evolve through the viewer too. This is what I feel the art process is about. It connects us to the spiritual part of the world. If you believe in God, creating art is a way to connect with God. If you believe in nature, then it connects you with the nature. Either way, you step into the role of creator, not just someone who takes from life, but someone who gives. And that's incredibly powerful. But don't get me wrong, technique does matter. But it always comes after the thought, the feeling, the intention behind the work. I will always encourage you to think first about what you want to show. What is the message or feeling you want to share? What's the foundation? Technique is the language we use to express it, our visual language. It grows and develops as we go deeper into our artistic journey. In this course, I will be sharing my technical approach to architectural subjects. It's my personal visual language and it continues to evolve. I hope it will resonate with you and support your own development, and I'm sure you will shape it into your own language, which is exactly how it should be. So, if your paintings don't look exactly like mine, don't be frustrated. That's not a failure. It's a beginning of finding your own voice. It's a chance to look at what you created and discover your personal strength, your unique visual superpowers. And if you need help with it, I'm always here. Share your work on our Telegram chat and feel free to ask. I truly love helping artists see what they are good at. It's one of my own and personal superpowers. I'm really good in it. So now to the course structure and philosophy. Besides the technical aspects of sketching architecture with watercolor and mixed media, the most important part of the course, as in all my educational products, is to guide you through the artist's way of thinking. This, I believe, is even more important than technique. My approach to teaching art is based on concept of contrasts. Just like in our life, we tend to notice what stands out from the usual. We notice a red car in a street full of white cars. A very tall person stands out in a crowd. Our brain is wired to detect contrast and difference. So as artists, we use these to our advantage. We create contrasts to guide the viewer's attention, to build composition, and to tell our story. This is true for all visual art, and it's especially useful in architectural sketching. Architecture surrounds us everywhere. We live in cities or towns, in buildings and homes. It's not surprise what many of those special moments of connection we talked about earlier involve architectural subjects. But architecture can often feel challenging to draw because of the rules of perspective and structural complexity and so on. From my experience, the issue is not the perspective rules themselves. They are not really that difficult. The bigger challenge is how we see. We tend to look at the things without really seeing them. Our brain fills the gaps instead of analyzing what's actually happening around us. So in this course, we will develop both sides, the ability of truly observe and the technical knowledge to build what we see. We will explore linear perspective, air perspective, the tonal value perspective. We will also learn when to apply these tools and when to rely on more abstract, expressive observation. So let's take a look at the course. Module 1, this is the Module 1 of introduction and all videos about tools we are going to use in our course. We will begin with a look at the materials we will use as watercolor paints, brushes, sketchbooks, watercolor paper, dry media like watercolor pencils and crayons, fountain pens and drawing pens. I will also show you my standard watercolor palette and explain the thinking behind the color choices. Important note: you don't need to use the exact same materials. Feel free to use your basic palette. Pencils can be replaced by crayons, markers, fountain pens with regular pens, and so on. What matters is what your choices are intentional, based on the visual effects you want to create. You will also learn how to properly hold your drawing tools for better line control, and we will practice a bit drawing clean lines, circles, and ellipses. These are all essential elements in architectural sketching. Module 2 is about contrast of abstract and geometric shapes. This is the first type of visual contrast we will explore. Architecture is often a mix of geometric structure and organic surroundings. We will focus on this contrast through 5 different sketches. We will start with a door, sketch of a door, sketch of a window, door plus window, talk about composition, of course, and 2 more complicated city skylines. I call them skylines, but they are not actually real skylines. We just create a kind of composition of iconic places and buildings from specific city, and this time we will go to United States, state Oregon, Portland, and to Italy, and create composition of Rome. On these examples, we will discuss visual weight balance and composition strategies, what can make even a simple or boring subject as window, flat window with no any depth, feel dynamic and personal. This model avoids complex perspective. We will stick with the flat shapes and silhouettes to train our eye for contrast and form. In Module 3, we are diving into linear perspective, and we will talk about horizon lines, 1, 2, and 3 point perspectives, how to find the horizon line in photo reference. We will learn how to make a drawing of simple cube and cylinder constructions, very useful in architecture sketching. For practice, we will sketch an old New York Brooklyn building from Google Maps view using two-point perspective and explore a farm scene with barns to practice some other shapes, not cube only, but cylinder, rooftop angles, overlapping forms, and combining color contrast with structural perspective. We will talk about color contrast as a visual tool also, of course. In Model 4, we are going to dive into street perspective and tonal values. Here we will go deeper into creating depth using contrast and line work. Also, we will focus on air perspective, atmospheric depth, tonal values perspective, the subject not truly mentioned by artists so much, but it really helps. Tonal values contrast, of course, as main visual tool. Warm and cold colors contrast, and we will practice on line variety for special layering, and we will also practice freehand drawing. So a lot of stuff in this model, and because of that we will have to practice a lot, and we will make it on 4 different large sketches of street scenes, each focusing on a different visual tool, a different visual contrast as main focus. We will explore lines, light and shadows, how to change light and shadow on reference in order to get some much more attractive result, color, temperature, and depth. This is a great place to play with freehand drawing and personal interpretation of references. So we will talk about this and learn how to do this. In Model 5, we will talk about shape unity and negative spaces and how to use all these in order to get attractive and beautiful compositions, and how to use the negative space as part of another visual contrast. So in this final model, we will explore how to control composition through grouping and simplification. This is a really important tool for artists to know how to unite things, how to group things into one object. So we will learn how to unify shapes into visual blocks, how to use a negative space purposefully, how to create rhythm and dynamic movement through contrasts. Rhythm is another important visual tool artists use, and we will talk about rhythm and practice this, of course. So in order to do this, we will paint 2 artworks, large sketch, I could call them. A scene with several buildings are merged into one shape to create a clear focal point, and a complex architecture view where we build visual rhythm and balance by uniting groups and manipulating shapes. Know how to manage this complex view of architecture subjects, a lot of visual information, and how to manage all this space in order to get beautiful constructed composition with specific focal points. So this is about managing the space. And of course, we will use all kinds of visual contrasts we learned before. So now that's it with the observation of the course, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how to get the most out of the course. So to make the most of this course, I recommend first follow the lessons exactly as they are. So follow me and paint the same artworks I show using the same references. This helps you understand the workflow and structure. Then move to your own references. I'm sure you have a lot of pictures of architectural subjects in your personal photo gallery. Just follow the same steps we used in lessons: choice of format, choice of composition, choice of colors, and contrast, of course, and try to create something entirely new but based on the same workflow. And the next step is, if you have some experience and you feel confident about, you can modify the process. Use different tools or materials. Skip a step or add your own step. This process will help you to shape your personal approach. And again, don't worry if your results are different from mine. It's completely okay. That's part of the journey. What matters is what you observe, make choices, and stay curious. And the last point I wanted to mention, connect with us. We have a Telegram chat of artists community. Share your work and your thoughts in our Telegram group. Inspire others and stay inspired. If you want feedback, just ask, tag me. I will be happy to help. I'm there for all your questions. And I think that's it for now. So let's dive in, and I will see you in the next lessons about materials.